Y'all are ready, we'll go ahead and get started. This will be a public comment meeting for the proposed 2019 budget. And at this time, the floor is open for any comment that anyone would like to make. Absolutely. You just have to come to the podium. That's so we can capture your voice on the tape and forevermore know that it was Joanne that was asking those questions.
Well, I wasn't ready for the first, so I'll start with just my first thing then.
All right.
Can I reserve my time to come back?
Absolutely.
Isn't that how they do it at the Senate or something?
You can come back just as many times as you want.
Okay, until you close the doors.
Till 6:20.
Right. I can do everything by then. Okay. I wanted to, I'll start with the bond debt service.
Yeah.
It's my recollection, and it may be in some of the pages I have, that, and with all of our refinancings, that it's about $4 million or $4.1 million in payments.
Right, about $4 million.
Okay. And when the squats was done at least 2 times back, I'm not sure about the last time, but I think also the last time, just not this time. It was written specifically that the SPLOTS money went first to pay the bond debt. The SPLOTS language that you did this past time, somehow that got changed, and it doesn't have to cover the bond debt first. And
well, let me sort of interject there that, yeah, that didn't get in the SPLOTS language this time, but it is official county policy that nothing gets done with capital funds until the debt service payment is tucked away.
Okay, but when county policy, all right, I'll accept that since as long as you all are in office, and when you aren't, I'll worry about it. But we collect according to your budget. You anticipate collecting $3.8 million from the SPLOTS money, and I think that's really just using what you actually collected previous year, and you didn't assume there, with the economy booming, that it might be more, or we go into a recession and it could be less. You use the last year's numbers as an estimate. Okay. Which is $3.8 million. So I personally feel that's low, but we have to come up with a number to use. But then, in the past, however years, we added $1 million to the bond, to our to our property taxes that the citizens pay that own property in the county. $1 million, and $1 million equals about $1 million. And that's probably going to equal more since we've increased the assessments on the property. So it's probably 1.1 or 1.2 million. And then 3 years ago, you added another $500,000 for the bond debt. So now you collect 1.9, which I think is very low with the increased value of the property taxes or assessments, on top of the $3.8 million in SPLOTS. So you've got $5.7 million to pay 4.1, and I don't understand the math.
Well, first of all, let me say that we do try to keep our revenue projections very conservative.
Yes.
Because I would rather be low than high.
I appreciate that.
To your point, though, there are a number of things in the county that pretty much have to be done, and the citizens of the county have made it very clear that they expect it to be done, and roads is number one on that.
Yes.
We had no money before to do anything other than pay the debt service, really. They may have been just a little leftover after that was over and done with. We still have the same problem that we had a couple of years ago when we put the extra $500,000 on them, in that we've got an awful lot of road equipment we've still got to replace. It's old and dilapidated. We've replaced a lot. The thing about road equipment is that Jim never comes to me and says, I need so-and-so, it's going to be $35,000. It's, I need so-and-so, and it's going to be $840,000 used. And that, I guess, is the nature of bulldozers and road equipment. We're under an awful lot of pressure right now for road striping. We've got to get a lot of that done. And it's needed. We've got a lot of people that are asking to have their roads paved. Now, we're not going to be able to make an awful lot of progress on paving roads for the time being, but we do want to pave some. We'd like to do a little bit. And so one of the things that we're going to do is take a portion of the grant money that we get, the helping money that we get every year, that we've only ever used for repaving in the past, and some bit of that will be used for paving unpaved roads. But it's still going to leave us drastically short. In our preparations for our capital budget, I asked for each of the departments to give me a list of what they felt like they needed to have this year. And we had, Sandy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was about $1.9 million that we could allocate for capital projects. And that is with a $500,000 reserve. We don't allocate every single dime that we think we're going to have. I think it was about $8 million, the request that we got. And when I asked various departments, okay, what's most important? Well, pretty much all was. So I had to ask them to, okay, well then itemize, 1, 2, 3, 4, what you want to have done. Fire department, they say they need a new ladder truck. They had any number of other items in there that came to several million. Road department needed several million. Solid waste needed about $500,000, I think. Planning and zoning, they're using vehicles that are many years old and have approaching 300,000 miles on them now. They were desperate for new vehicles. What we're trying to do is have enough money left over when we pay that debt service, not to accommodate all this, because there's just no way, but to make an incremental step every year to try to make it a little better. This year, Jim got, I think, 2 of the things, pieces of equipment that he asked for, which was a motor grader and a pothole repair truck, and a salt spreader, Yeah.
We have potholes?
Not if we get to them quickly enough. But there was an awful lot he didn't get. There was a whole lot more the fire department didn't get. We're just trying to do something. And I think that's important because, and when I say this, I'm not being critical of any commission in the past. I mean, if the money's not there, the money's not there. But for years and years and years, we've said the money's not there and we haven't done anything. And there comes a day of reckoning. And that day has come. And so what we're trying to do is just have some money left over to make some incremental progress on these sort of things.
Well, but in the newspaper, I think it said that this ladder truck was like $1 million.
Yeah, so we're not getting it.
Okay, because why we would need $1 million ladder truck instead of a used one from somewhere? I mean, we're not Los Angeles or whatever, and we have very few 10-story buildings, but...
Actually, $1 million was the figure that was quoted to me, and I have no clue. But that's the figure that was quoted to me for a good used one.
Okay, well, back to what you just said. You said very beginning, the slots money had to go to the bond debt first.
Okay.
Yet on our tax bills, you put 1.5 mils for bond payment. And so you're really taking 1.5 mil from us to pay the bonds, which means it's kind of like smoke and mirrors, or it's like trying to fool us that slots money then is sort of like making a way that there's definitely money left in the slots account without having to tell us.
That's not really the intent. The intent is more that the money that is collected be restricted to capital usage, which means SPLOST. I don't want any, if we were to take that $1.5 million and just move it over to the general bond, a general loan account, and it could be used in the general fund. That's a situation I don't want to see happen, because the whole point of all this is to improve the capital infrastructure in Gilmer County. And I don't want this money, even where it can be used, in the general fund. So what happens is we do utilize 1.5 mil exclusively toward the debt service. But then when we add what's necessary to that, we generally then have some left over that we can use. But it's important to me that this be restricted to capital usage.
If I may,
I understand that.
one issue that we're dealing with on the 2019 budget that we haven't had a couple years prior, we were able to refund some of our debt and have significant savings that can only be applied to capital.
Yes.
Well, now we've refunded everything that's really refundable. Is that a word? I guess it is. And
yes.
So for this budget, we're not going to have any of those funds available. And we kind of got used to them, or I did. And this was tough.
Okay.
I would add one other comment too, Joanne. If we look at the longer term and not just this 2019 budget, but I have a number in my head that says that our transportation infrastructure in this county will need about $20 million or more in the next 10 years. We have bridges that we cannot repair or replace. We have roads that need work on them that we cannot do, and we do not have that money in our bank account to cover those future things. We also have at least that much of a coming requirement for our infrastructure of our buildings, our facilities, our parking lots, and those kinds of things that over the next 10 years is going to be probably impossible to meet because of the age, because of the lack of maintenance over the years, that we couldn't maintain them and the damage that's been done. So we have a big outlook of something that's almost impossible to catch up with. So anything we can do to build a fund or a balance that will provide for those things in the future, if we don't start now, we won't be able to do it, and we will not get rid of our bond debt service for another, 12 years or so. So we are caught in this struggle. Everything's getting older, of course everything's getting higher priced, and we are stuck with a fixed amount of debt that we must continue to battle. So it is an impossible situation, but I think if we forget about the next 10 years and what we're going to need to keep our infrastructure usable, we will have been neglecting our job.
Where's I know we have a reserve fund for the swimming pool, we have a contingency fund, but where is the reserve fund then that we're building for this?
Well, I think Charlie maybe alluded to it. We did add last year, or this year for 2018, $100,000, I think it was, to the facilities as a contingency. We did add some money. I don't know the numbers on transportation.
Well, we have a couple of different reserve funds. One of them is for the swimming pool. And with the 19 budget, that'll put us at $600,000 toward the swimming pool. So a couple more years, hopefully we'll be able to maybe build one. We also have a building reserve fund that last year was funded at $250,000. This year we added another $100,000 to that. Now there's some money that's left over that we're just not earmarking here. One of the things that I should mention is when I said a while ago that we had $1.9 million to allocate for capital for 2019. That is after we had already taken $4 million and set it aside for the 2019 debt service. So we have $4 million in cash right now sitting there ready to pay that debt service. We're not relying on, for the 2019 debt service, we're not relying on how much loss we collect. That money is there ready to pay us.
This is the bills due in April?
The first one is due, I believe, March, isn't it, Sandy? April 1st. Okay, so April 1st will be interest and capital principal. And then in, I think it's October, we'll have just interest payment. Those two combined will total just a little bit over $4 million. So we've got that $4 million sitting in cash. We don't show it in a reserve account anywhere, but we've got that $4 million sitting there right now ready to pay the 2019 debt service. And that's something that we will always do going forward. Unless we've got the debt service amount in cash on hand, we're not going to be spending anything on any future capital improvements. So.
Okay. Well, I'll let somebody else ask something for us.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments or concerns? Margaret? Okay.
This isn't a large amount, it's only about a $272,000 outlay, but could you educate me on the public defender? How many people is Gilmer County providing a public defender for? Is that for the whole office, the staff and everything, or is that just for the people?
It's for our portion of the entire office. The public defender, and David, keep me honest here, the public defender is for the Tri-County area.
I was going to ask that too.
Pickens, Gilmer, and Fannin. And so what they do is, and a lot of it's funded through the state, but there is some portion of it that's funded from the counties. So what they generally do is they take the state amount, what's left over, then the 3 counties fund, and that would be our portion of that.
Has anybody, I'm sure, done an analysis on which county is probably got more criminals or more people being defended by the public?
That analysis has been done, and off the top of my head, I believe Fannin was number 1, Gilmer's number 2, and Pickens is number 3 from worst to best in terms of crime. It has been mentioned, I won't even say discussed, but mentioned about prorating it according to the amount of crime, but that's something that will never get an approval from the 3 counties combined. So.
I understand that most of those cases are drug-related.
That's my understanding.
And talking to Allison Sosby, I think the crime rate in Gilmer County has gone up like 40%, or maybe that's in the circuit.
I don't know. I wouldn't want to venture an opinion on that without having the specifics on it. But
well, that was just.
I do know it's up. I don't know if 40%.
Most of it's drug-related. Okay, my other question is, I also would go up and sometimes attend the Board of Commissioners meeting in Fannin County. And there has been mention of an aquatic center, a tri-county aquatic center, probably built in Gilmer County, but funded through Pickens, Gilmer, and Fannin. Has that been discussed at all, rather than replacing this school where an aquatic center that would benefit seniors and...
Tonight is the first time I've heard that at all.
Oh, really?
I have not heard it from any of the other county chairmen or I'm not aware of it at all. I love the idea, but first time I've heard it.
I'll make sure you get some more information.
I would appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Brian Pritchard, maybe for obviously good reason, I just wish post Commissioner-elect Ferguson was here tonight.
She really wanted to be, but
is this the dates that she's at the training?
Right.
Okay, I seen that post the other day. She's at chair. I was thinking that, and I thought I brought that up. All right, so she's at Commissioner School.
Right.
So I thought, okay. You know, Mr. Chairman, you said, and I don't want to say demand, I don't remember, you said citizens had a list of, I hate to sound like demands, but had a list of priorities.
yes,
And your quote is, roads is #1 on that.
absolutely, in my opinion.
In your opinion. But in your opinion, what you heard from the citizens,
Yes.
the takeaway is roads is #1 on that. That was your takeaway.
9 out of every 10 calls I get is by the road.
Okay, okay. Now, I know, lack of a better way to put it, the argument, and asking me where it comes from, and I would find it. So I propose we take $500,000 out of this budget and move it over to the road department right now, because it's definitely needed. Now I know I'm just saying, I propose you take $500,000 out of this thing that you have proposed tonight and move it over to that road department, because that's 9 out of 10 of what citizens you speak to say is #1 on their list. So I think that ought to move up. Now, that being said,
Well, before you leave that though,
Okay.
where would you propose that we take it from?
well, if you want, we'll stay and see if we can find it. But I'll just wanted to say that I think it's in there. But I'm going to respect the three of you have done the work, and maybe you feel it's not in there, or it's not. It's there. There's 21 million or whatever we're talking about, so it's there. But you have obviously, through the departments and the constitutional officers in this county, have decided it doesn't go there at this time.
We did have a good increase there.
You did. Point well taken. You did have a good increase, but it could go further.
I agree with that.
This may be, everything I have to say is concerning the budget, because it's concerning our money as taxpayers. So I hope you'll indulge me on a couple things, because I don't get here that often. This may be the last time I get to address this commission. I know, and I want to tell you, Commissioner Crouch, I appreciate you and I appreciate your service and your time you give to the county in the last 4 years. But, you know, I want to say this, because it does, I keep getting stuck on the $500,000, and what I mean by that, the $1.5 million, I always round it up. A mill's worth $1 million, $500,000, $500,000. And I keep, you know, and I for one do not think at least the $500,000 needs to be on our property tax any longer. 5 years, I live in Cherryville, okay? So I'm not talking about anybody's fire station. Now, first responders in this county, no matter what, where they work, what service they provide tonight, this is absolutely nothing against any first responder. Okay, this is about our tax money. I live in Cherryville, Georgia now for 18 years. Okay, I did not know, 5 years ago, we had what amounted to a shed 5 years ago, we had what amounted to a shed with an old truck in it at the old Gilmer Head Start property that posed as the Cherry Log Fire Station. That's what we had. I lived there. It was an old shed, rusted on the bottom. Okay, you know. We had a 100-year deal for $1 a year, I think. Okay. I know when the church purchased the property, we had to close the station, you know, and I use that term station loosely, okay? But we went from about a $100 deal, okay? And by no means the fault of the past chairman. We went from a $100 deal to, I think, the payout sheet that I got last week is somewhere around, Cherry Log now has like a $354,000 fire station. $354,000. I lived there 18 years. Okay, I didn't know I had a fire station until I found out we got kicked out of it in the commissioners meeting downstairs. And then I went over and looked at it. It was a shed with an old truck that hadn't been pulled out in years. Now I don't know the details. I went over and peeked through the windows the other day. It's got a kitchen. It's got living quarters. Now I do figure the property, the road up to it, we had to put a lot into that to make that feasible and work for trucks. But I don't know, there's 2 pretty good pieces of equipment in there. Now you may, and this doesn't include the M&O expense of operating the thing. This doesn't, we've opened another full fire station in this county when we can't operate or fund properly or need the ones we have. Now I know I'm going to hear the 5-mile radius. I know I'm going to hear ISO. I'm going to hear if you live so far from White Path. If you want to tell me that, I'll listen. But you can save that, and I say that in all due respect. All I know is we got a $500,000 added onto our property, and now I guess I'm supposed to come and thank you. And I know I sound rude and facetious and, you know, I'm arrogant, I'm sorry, but I'm supposed to come and thank you for a $354,000 fire station. Now, you know, God forbid something happens in my area tonight, I guess I'll wish it's there and be glad of it. 5 years ago, we started taking in trash. 7 years ago, we started taking in trash. $1 back. Can I ask you tonight, as this commission, the 3 of you, do we still take cash there? Or in the past 4 years of your administration, the 3 of you, do we have another alternative other than pure out-and-out cash that we take there?
We currently do not, just cash.
We just cash, right?
Right.
Didn't we talk years ago about that should clear up at our garbage receptacles of just taking the $1 in there? I think we did. And I bring that up because the budget, I'm not angry, but I am upset as a taxpayer tonight. You raised our taxes. Okay. Now I know the state of Georgia says, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I know you don't like it when I say you raised our taxes because you didn't raise the millage rate. Okay. Correct. But the state of Georgia says if you don't roll back the rate to keep the revenue even from last year at a certain percent, you have to announce to these people here, citizens of Gilmer County, and propose it as a tax increase. Now you don't like it, but you do, correct?
Yes.
So the reality, according to the state of Georgia, you raised our taxes this past year. Now not just $1.5 million on the property for the bond, and I understand that. And you know, there's so many good things you guys have done, and I don't want to be a light at that, but I'm a little up to here on the explanations. I know you lapsed maintenance agreement on very expensive things for this courthouse when you took office. I know you were on a ladder up here trying to fix a very expensive roof with spray cans of sealant. I understand for the most part so many things you guys took over, and I understand it. But you raised our taxes, all right, last year. You've raised the budget, and I know we discussed this, Okay, I know we discussed this downstairs last time when I brought it up. And last year, the amended budget of last year is $19,781,247, and I understand, Mr. Clark, I don't totally remember tonight how you explained it, but I understand how the contingency fund or whatever, however it was listed, made it look like the budget was being raised higher than it actually is. But anyhow, last year the budget's 19 million, operating budget 781,427. Now back to the Cherry Log Fire Station. If you're going to tell me, not putting words in your mouth, that like this courthouse, well, we built a 100-year fire station. It'll work for Cherry Log for 100 years. When you broke, you broke. When you don't have money, you don't have money. And when you don't have money, you don't spend money. And we didn't have the 354,000. That's my opinion. I say that. But there's 19 million, and you're asking us about the budget tonight. You're getting ready to propose a 21,711,000. Now, I always ask simple questions that I truly don't understand. I don't have the education to understand this. I just don't know how we operated last year on X, and now we need X plus. Those are simple things for me, okay? And I'm for sure you would explain it, but I never understand how you can get through 1 year on X, and the next year you need X plus. So that's what we're proposing tonight, is to increase the budget that amount. And I'll tell you what gets me. And the more I've thought about it, and the more work I've done on it, I went home and did, after the last meeting, did some soul searching whether I could grudge somebody to be paid appropriately for the services they render, and I don't. So I went home. The post commissioner's pay. All right. Now you've already made a decision to go through with that because it's in the budget. If you look at the Gilmer County Commissioner's budget, your budget, you've already appropriated anticipating the post commissioner's raise, correct? It's in there as a dollar number.
Let me say on that if you are contemplating anything at budget time, you have two choices. You either say no right then and there, or you put it in the budget and leave yourself the flexibility. I have said several times in these meetings, and we'll say it again here, and as far as I know, I think Travis and Dallas have never indicated they disagree with it, that we do not have to spend money just because of the budget.
I understand, and I don't mean, and I want to, because you're talking to me, I want to be clear, this is not directed at you, but the word contemplate, okay? I will say just the fact that you're contemplating, all right, bothers me, and I know not to put words into post commissioner, and you, my Crouch, you can speak for yourself here. You said something that was you that made the recommendation to change the post commissioner's pay.
That is correct.
That's all right. So I went and I pulled the post commissioner's pay. Okay, I went and pulled it and I looked at it. And post commissioners in Gilmer County get 10% of the chairman's, right? 10% of the chairman. Now you have these things that I had to go to do some math on. You've got cost of living adjustments here, and you've got re-elected longevity raises and so forth, but you have the base pay. And I'm going to use a number for argument's sake of $750 a month is what a commissioner basically plus benefits in this, a post commissioner in this county. $750 a month. Yeah, a month. So, you know, in the past,
the benefits are not provided. They are eligible for benefits, but they still pay the same rate.
The pay is the same, but they're eligible for benefits.
Right, right.
Right.
I took what you were saying to mean that they got benefits over and above the pay, but they're eligible. But if they take the benefits, they still pay what everybody else does.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, you're right. Not plus the benefits like it came with it, but just like any other county employee, they're eligible.
Yes. Right.
All right. Did I correct? All right. So, but the 750 is around about correct. All right. That's 10%. Okay. Now, I remember, because the last administration, I maybe missed in 4 years, 3 meetings, period. So I remember we'd go downstairs in that room, and we'd start at 9 o'clock in the morning and sometimes leave at 6 at night. And I remember when we just talked about bags of trash, that took about 4 straight days. Right? Right? Okay. This commission, may I say, is no better. But I just ran some numbers, and I know this might, you know, I know some of you may put in more time, but a post commissioner's average pay is $750 a month. Okay, you're planning to double that pay to $1,500 a month. $1,500 a month. A candidate pays, I went and pulled the qualifying. I pulled your qualifying and Ms. Ferguson's qualifying. You paid 3% because a candidate pays 3% of the base pay, correct? So you went and paid 3% anticipating to get the $750. You didn't pay 3% anticipating qualifying to get the $1,500. I won't ask you to answer that, okay? But you didn't pay that anticipating to get the $1,500. You paid it anticipating to get $750. Ms. Ferguson went over there, she paid 3% anticipating to get the $750. And I'll get to the point in a minute here, audience. So you pay based on that. You're qualifying. When you pay a qualifying, you set qualifying and you have to run it in the legal organ, correct? You set the qualifying, you have to run it in the legal organ and let people know the qualifying base for this office is X, and then people out there can choose if they want to run for that office. So the qualifying fee is advertised, okay? So you want to change it from 10% to 20%. You could have done that by home rule. You could have changed the charter by home rule. What you would have had to have done is before qualifying, all right? And this is regardless if the pay, I mean, not to say we should serve the county for nothing, but if all you're doing is serving the county for the pay, you know, that's a question within yourself if you serve. But what you should have done in my eyes is gone to the citizens of Gilmer County and told them you wanted to double the pay for the post commissioners. Then you leave it up to the citizens to make that decision. Because what you would have had to done then is write it up, and then you'd have to have a public hearing like we are tonight, correct? Is it not 2 to change the charter? 2 public hearings, right? And then by home rule, you could have changed the pay, and then before qualifying, people out in the county might have said, hey, that pays $1,500 a month. I may drive a school bus. That they need school bus drivers. Quit driving down south. Try to run for the 50. It doesn't matter. It could have changed a lot. But we didn't do that by home rule. All right? What you're proposing is to do it by legislative, local legislation. Meaning you plan to write up legislation, all right? And you plan to send it down by the Speaker of the House, which is our 7th District Representative, okay? Which I guess you could opt for State Senator Steve Gooch, but you plan to send it down with Speaker of the House. Speaker of the House is going to do a pre-file, which he's going to pre-file. And then it's going to be down there, and it's going to be on the floor in 2019. Now, I'm going to tell the 3 of you right now as polite as I can, but you raise my taxes. I'm supposed to be just okay, right? Because let me tell you something, I'm not retired. I'm working 7 days a week. Raise my taxes. You put 1.5 mil on there to pay the bond debt. You guys didn't do it. You're doing the best you can to refinance them. I'm supposed to be okay. Build a $354,000 fire station. I'm supposed to be okay. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you send local legislation, I apologize for raising my voice, I'm just adamant about it. If you send local legislation down there to the floor, and you let legislators in South Georgia, and West Georgia, and Savannah, and Rome, or wherever, when the people of Gilmer County are sitting here and it's our decision, to make a decision of how to pay our post commissioners, I just hope you don't. I really do. I hope you check yourself. This is not personal. This is not against Dallas Miller. This is not against Carleen Ferguson. Because, see, the reality is, if you do it by local legislation, then this county decides. If everybody fills this room and they support you 100%, if they do support you, and you vote yes, I walk away saying, hey, you know what? Gilmer County decided that's what they wanted to pay their post commissioner. But I'm telling you right now, you know, I look at these capital improvements. Going from 10, let me ask you a question, going from 10 to 20, because I did a little bit of math, and I hope I'm not using up too much time, but I did a little bit of math, and because I've attended a lot of meetings. So if you take 40 hours, you get $750 a month. So if you take 40 hours, if you work a full work week, 40 hours, that's $18.75 an hour. Okay? Are you working 2 full weeks a month? What is the double? I've yet to hear in the last meeting, what are the new responsibilities for the 1,500? Do you get new places you got to go to? Do you get new responsibilities? What is it? If somebody's in here this week and they empty the trash can for $200 a week in this county building, and they empty it $200 a week, and you come back next week and you say, okay, I want you to empty the same trash can, but I'm going to give you $400, that's pretty good. So what are the increased responsibilities? Is there a list of responsibilities you put out for the new pay for $1,500? And the reason I say that is, I went and broke down, I said, am I being fair about that? Okay?
Check your math there first.
I could be wrong. Okay. Am I being fair? All right?
Check your math. You're on the air, check your math.
I don't have anything with me to check.
Would you like to borrow them?
Is it what's 750 divided by 40? Is it 1875? Am I wrong?
That's apples and oranges. That's 750 for a month and 40 for a week.
No. I'm doing it in, if you put in 40 hours. Not a week. I made the 750. If you put in 40 hours, if you took this position.
The 750 is a month, not a week.
A month. A month. But what I'm saying is, if you put in 40 hours.
40 hours for the month.
For the month.
Okay.
That's what I was doing. That's what I was doing. So most of us call a work week 40-hour week. All right. So you get $750 a month. All right. I thought I had the math. You do it again, $750 a month. So I'm saying, are you putting in 40 hours? That would be a work week. If you're putting in 40 hours a month for the county, okay, for the 750, are you going to now put in 80? Are you putting in 80 now? Now, I'll just say, I'd like to give you my quick math, because I looked at it, if you're, you got I give you 4 hours a month for a workshop. I give you 2 hours for a meeting like tonight. I give you 2 hours a week. That's 8 hours a month to stop by and sign whatever legislative stuff you have to sign. That's 8 hours a month. 2 hours a week to come to the county. 2 hours a week to study. That's 8 hours a month. A special call meeting, we'll throw in 4 hours if you have 4 1-hour special call meetings. Okay? If you talk to citizens on the telephone 2 hours a week, that's 8 hours a month, maybe more. That's a total of 34 hours. All right? If you throw the other 6 in there, 40. I mean, if you are doing more than that, okay. But, to tell us, hey, I don't think, in all due respect, it's correct that Mr. Miller get a pay raise, because if you send this down by local legislation, okay, if you send it down by local legislation, then when the governor signs it, immediately the post commissioner Ferguson would immediately be getting paid the new rate. She did not pay a qualifying fee for the new rate. Mr. Miller didn't pay a qualifying fee for the new rate. I'm just saying, without telling the citizens of Gilmer County, are you making post commissioners in charge of certain departments? What are you changing about the job? How do you come to just go to $1,500 a month, which is for post commissioner's pay with the availability? I'm just telling you this. If you want to change it, change it. Do it by home rule, the correct way. And when you do it by home rule, if the citizens of Gilmer County decide that post commissioners should get paid more, I will respect the citizens of the county. Okay? And then after that, the next post commissioner goes over, and when you set qualifying, it'll be for $1,500. Then we'll see how many candidates we get out. I mean, I don't want to go back and say that, you know, what if the citizens of Gilmer County knew that this paid $1,500? What if we'd have had 10 more candidates? I don't know. But it's not right. That's obviously not right. You change the SPLOST language. You just flat did. SPLOST is supposed to first and foremost go to the debt. I understand what you just told Mr. DeBlanke about that, but you did change the language. It leaves an opening for the SPLOST to be spent. You put a $500,000 on a property tax. You got a full mill that you keep putting back on every year to pay the bond debt service. Your projected cash flow on there, you do it just like she said, it leaves a 1.7 mil. We got a 3 and I know I'm going to get in trouble. I think we got somewhere around $3.8 million in fire and EMS. $3.8 million in that department. It is a department that you control. I don't want to get into the constitutional officers. You may be able to go through the constitutional officers and find money. I don't want to argue with you.
Are you saying we have $3 million capital in the?
No, that's what your budget is.
Oh, you're talking about the general budget. Okay.
Yeah, 3.8.
Well, when you were talking about the 1.5 mil, which is SPLOST, which is capital money, and then you said
no,
3.5 million. I didn't make the transition.
The 1.5 is debt service. The 1.5 mil is debt service that we have. Okay, and I mean, you know, I just your explanations for some things are just I don't know where they're coming from. I really don't. Bottom line is you raise your taxes. Bottom line is, you know, I know you had to replace equipment. But you know, I tell you what, I can go around this circle and I should be able to close my eyes and catch a ride with a Tahoe about 9 times a day. 9 different Tahoes, by the way. I mean, it just seems like it. It just seems like it. My biggest thing is I'm very disappointed that you're closing this year out and you continue to raise our taxes, and we're supposed to be okay. And we are. And that's the way we're supposed to keep going back 4 years and saying, well, you know, we were in such a deep hole. We were in such a deep hole. I really think that the consideration that was given and just doubling the post commissioner's pay, and I know you guys worked hard on the budget, but I think $500,000 could be found to put it back over in the roads is the #1 thing. So things have to be cut back. I know I get in trouble for that. And some of the departments maybe, I don't know, look at it deeper. But I will leave with saying that if you want to double the post commissioner's pay, you let the citizens of Gilmer County double the post commissioner's pay. You don't let some legislator in South Georgia vote on my tax bill. Because you guys do things where my tax money is concerned, and I can come talk to you. And I know I'm loud, and that's just the way I am, but it's not disrespectful, I promise. And nothing means any more to me as a citizen of Gilmer County being able to come and voice my opinion to the 3 of you. I appreciate it so much, you don't know. But guess what? I don't have time to run to South Georgia and tell that guy or that lady down South Georgia, why in the world you vote and spend my tax money? Keep that decision here at home. That's my request. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
That was was the other issue that I was saving also, was the post commissioners' salaries. However, I had no idea until I just heard Brian speak on the difference between how it was going to take place, and now I'm even more upset about it, because I'm absolutely opposed if you're going to let the legislature in Atlanta determine the post commissioner's salaries. And I feel very strongly that if the citizens of this county had known what the salary was, and the numbers, I did the numbers also, and the first term commissioner, because there's a bump up for longevity, but there's all these COLA increases. So right now the salary is $10,411, which is $867 a month, and I added up numbers of hours that a commissioner probably spends, as opposed to how many hours we used to spend before Mr. Harris took over. And I was a lot more generous with how many hours I gave for preparation and how many hours for sitting in a workshop, 5 hours in a workshop, which they usually don't last that long, 3 hours at a BOC meeting, a regular one, which other than something like this never lasts. Sometimes they don't even last 15 minutes. 2-hour special called meetings a month, and some months there aren't any. I did 4-hour special trips, like if you had to go look at something at the airport or whatever. So, but I come up to $39 an hour for the number of hours, and with the raise, it's $73.18, because the salary goes to $19,320. And the salary was announced at that originally, the number of people in this county that would have applied for that, for the number of hours that you have to work that would supplement their Social Security income, I think you would have been inundated with people that would have wanted this position, that wouldn't have had the interest, the heart, or the knowledge to do the job. They just wanted the money. And this is not a job that you do because you want the money. It's like, I'm on the building authority and I don't get a nickel, and I have to go to meetings and I have to tour the courthouse and do inspections. I mean, all the other people that serve on authorities get paid something. And I do it because it's what I feel is my duty to the county. And I think that we're paying a sufficient amount to the post commissioners, or at least, I don't understand a doubling of it. What's wrong with a 20% increase? How did it come up with doubling? But my main thing after listening to Brian is to let the legislature determine what our salaries are, or what we would pay in Gilmer County. I'm absolutely opposed to.
Well, in terms of the doubling, I guess I'm going to have to take the responsibility for that, because when the subject first came up, how much should it be increased, I just threw out, make it 20%. So that's, that's where that came from. I would like to say too that one of the things that it was my understanding in terms of the need to raise the post commissioner's pay, it's not so much paying them for what they do as reimbursing them for what they lose if they have their own business, because the time away from it does in fact equate to lost revenue. And in fact, I think Carlene can probably tell you now, before she's even taken office, that she's seeing that effect, just with all the things that she's doing to prepare for office. So, doesn't have to be 20%, 15%. And I'm fine with whatever, but I don't want these guys to take heat for doubling it, when I just kind of said, I thought maybe 20% would be appropriate. But I did want to put out there that, in my mind, one of the primary reasons for raising it was not to compensate them more for what they do, so much as to reimburse them for what they lose in their daily business.
But it shouldn't be after the fact. There's other people that would have run if they
Well,
made a decision that they couldn't afford to lose that from
Yeah.
their business. And now that you give the raise, they might have run. I
Yeah.
just don't think it's fair.
And those are two separate issues, and I wouldn't argue your point at all about the manner of doing it. I'm just explaining my thoughts about how it came about.
We really had no idea of the mechanism or when it would take effect. None of that had been researched. I do this based on 4 years of my own experience, and I know what it takes to do this job. And I hear you when you've added up hours, but there's many more hours, and there's trips to training where you're gone for a couple of days here, a couple of days there. There's driving your own vehicle around, there's no reimbursement for that. There's more to it than just the hours that you've done. The other thing that I look at is, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe we've had a second-term post-commissioner since the 90s. When was the last time? That's a little disturbing. People are anxious to get out of the post-commission. If you go talk to the ones that have come through, it's a very, very tough job that is done. There's a lot of responsibility, a lot of interactions at awkward times that interrupt other things. You don't have second-term post-commission. Dallas is
Not
second-term.
because they haven't run. I mean, they just weren't re-elected. I mean, Danny Albright.
How many have run?
Well, there have been several. And
This was a recommendation I made. I'm not going to run again. I don't have a dog in this fight. It was my recommendation based on what the impact it had on my life and my business. I think it's a low fee.
I don't disagree with that. I disagree with doubling it, and I disagree with how it's being done.
The mechanism-
And if you want to approve it, then it should be for the next set of commissioners, like they do in Congress.
I happen to agree with that.
And, not the people that are coming, now.
Yes,
That's my only point.
I agree.
Thank you.
If you agree with that, I do too. Should we use the same legislative option?
No, it's not appropriate. I've always felt uncomfortable about that approach.
Well, I have too, so. Al, what do you? I know you're uncomfortable with that, getting a raise.
Well, yeah, I don't want to speak to it too much, but there is, in fact, when you take your oath and when you fill out your form for the campaign funds and blah, 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 all of those things, one of the things that strikes me and I take to heart is that this is not ethical. I don't know about the legal stuff, but it is really morally and ethically not the proper thing to do to have a publicly elected official give themselves a raise. That's just not something I think is appropriate. I do not have any concern that the actual pay for the post commissioners is too low. It is. It's been too low forever. It's never been good. It's never been increased. It is not the dollar issue, I don't think, that we have. I do agree and understand Brian's concern and raises the issue of whether it applies to the current or existing post commissioners. So if there's a way not to do that, and it creates, in my mind, my own conflict of interest, because I should not be financially benefiting from this position. That's not why I'm here. That's not why I should be here. That's not why I should look for this position to do that. But having said that, I think it's quite appropriate to properly compensate the post commissioners for the time they put in. All of them, no matter who they have been, have spent more time than they probably expected. They spent more time than they needed to legally, but they did that out of service and dedication to the job. So if there's a way to not apply it to the current or soon to be current post commissioners, I'm in favor of that. And I don't want to, if I have an opportunity, to actually make a vote that would give myself a raise. That's just something I don't want to do.
Well,
and if there's a way around that, then I can support it.
Well, there is a way around that. I very much believe that post commissioners should be paid more. And I would say, sort of like Travis, I don't feel like I have a dog in this fight either, because it's post commissioners we're talking about raising, not the chairman. My concern in this, and the reason I mentioned sort of trying to have some mitigation for the amount that you may lose if you run a business, that's been what's in the back of my mind. I do believe that home rule is the way to do it, the best way to do it. I give Brian points for his I take his points very seriously about the qualifying fee. The reason that the local legislation appealed to me, pure and simple, one thing only, was that I felt that if this could be put in place in time so that Carlene could avoid a loss, that would be a good thing. I think everybody up here, though, has said that if it becomes an issue that's starting to tear people apart, it's not worth it. I have the same reservations that Travis and Dallas both have. What I would, and if doubling is too much, then it can be something less than that. I felt like 10% was pretty low, but it could be 15%, 12%, whatever. It would be appropriate. I think that what we need to do is first decide on an appropriate amount. And I'm good, personally, I will say this, I'm good up to 20%. We're talking about it 20%. Brian's going to stroke out when I say this, so enhance your calm. We're talking about a total of about $18,000 over a $21 million budget in order to see that they don't lose money. So I'm good up to 20%. If it's 15%, I'm good with that. I think what you're going to see in our next meeting, unless I have misread these folks terribly, is that this is going to go forward, but it'll go forward with home rule, and it'll be a locally made decision, is my guess.
I can support that, Charlie.
Yes, sir.
If it goes forward with home rule, my understanding would be it would not apply to the commissioners at this time.
That is correct. That's why I was saying that the attraction for local legislation for me was that Carlene would be able to take advantage of it.
I understand, and Mr. Miller, like you said about giving yourself a raise, I think I don't want to get lost in some of my comments here of the way I came across, but you wouldn't be giving yourself a raise next time if you come in and you vote home rule.
Correct.
And you vote to change it 20%, and the citizens of this county have an opportunity to come to the podium to agree and disagree, the next election the citizens will give you that raise.
Correct.
And that's what I'm saying. Because even if you did it with legislation down in Atlanta, Post Commissioner Ferguson, in all due respect, I understand, there's liability to the business. I think Post Commissioner Crouch makes a good point there. But then she would obviously, before it could be passed, she would receive a check from the county at the old rate, and the legislation would be giving both of you a raise. All I'm asking is let the citizens decide if they want to vote you back in, and if they do, then the citizens are deciding to give you the raise. That's pretty much it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think we're all good with that.
Okay.
I think the citizens have spoken.
Yeah. Any other comments before I propose one slight change? I believe, David, you said that we can make minor changes at this point. I am going to propose that we add $7,000 to the contract portion of the BOC budget in order to pay for a management software system that will track road conditions, road repairs, building inventory, building maintenance, and automotive inventory maintenance. And the price is slightly less than $7,000 a year for it. So I would propose that we add $7,000 to that line item in the BOC budget.
That would you'd expect that to be an annual type.
That would be an annual thing. What it would do is, when we get a call that a road needs to be repaired, it would be entered into that. And there would be a record kept of what the repair was made, what the repair was and when. At some point, you would be able to pull up a map of the county, and on each road, you'd see little red dots, and you can click on them and see what was done there, and allow you to start trending. I think it'd be a good thing. I think it would be worth the cost, and so I'm bringing that to y'all tonight. So,
Mr.
yes.
Chairman, if you let the citizens see that online, then I'm going to support it.
I'm fine with them seeing that online, as long as since login IDs would be an issue, as long as they're not able to modify it.
I agree with that.
Right now, when you call about a road, is Dixie or somebody just puts it on a piece of paper and that's...
First of all, Charlie, I like that idea. You sprung that on me. Let me tell you what we do now. It's kind of antiquated, but it's effective. We have a file on every county road that in Gilmer County, whether it's paved, gravel, or whatever. Every time there is a call that comes in, a work order is generated. That work order is then given to the appropriate crew or people to do, and when it is completed, then it comes back and we take not only the time that it took, but if there was materials or whatever involved in it, and that goes in that road file. So we have 500 miles of roads. You can come to the road department and Miss Dixie will pull out a file. That hard copy is there on every road that we have.
Yeah, what sort of a file? It's Excel, Word, what?
No, it's a legal file. It's a literal file.
Paper.
Yeah.
I rest my case.
So you could also deduct some salary from post-commissions if you want to go home rule. Because this budget is...
You could do that, yeah, because if we're going home rule, it's not going to be in 19. So that would more than cover. What I'm suggesting here, this is an integrated solution. Right now, we can tell you what our inventory of buildings is. We can tell you what our inventory of vehicles is, because we have it on an Excel spreadsheet. But trying to keep that sort of thing on an Excel spreadsheet, is pretty rough. And you can pull reports from it, but that's not very intuitive either. This is an all-in-one cloud-based solution that I think will be very beneficial to the operation of the county.
Will you please do something about the trash collection? In fact, I'm going to say one more thing.
Okay.
When Brian brought that up, I was originally going to say something about it, but I go to Tower Place and I go to 52, are the two primary ones, and I have watched that 52 has a lot of times a line, so does Tower Place, Tower Road, and you can watch people hand the money to the collecting person, and it does not go in that thing, and I've had it happen to me personally. I hand them the money, and I think, oh my God, I mean, I know to put it in the thing. I know to put it in the thing. So then I said, the last time, this is like 3 weeks ago, I said, aren't you supposed to put it in the container? And he said, I will. He said, I have to write the receipt thing first. And he wrote the receipt and handed it to me. Now, I wanted to say, put the money in the box, but I didn't, all right, because it's not my place to do it. But I can tell you, money does not go in that box. And why we don't have readers or something after all this time, we certainly could pay for them with the money we aren't getting, in my opinion. And I'm not going to pick on any one particular person, but I've seen it happen over and over and over these years.
Maybe, I want to know, you stay right there. I heard about this, and Charlie, you heard about this. And I'll tell you that a memo went out 2 weeks ago, and if we have an employee that receives money from a customer, that employee will be disciplined immediately, because you are supposed to drop the money into the receptacle. The employee is not supposed to touch the money. Now, the reason that it was happening at Tower Road is because we have occasion there where we have to make change in the scale house. So, okay, no, I know it's not in the scale house, it's in the convenience center. But what a request would come out to the convenience center, I need change. And so the individual operating the convenience center would take a $20 bill or whatever, and they would accumulate $20 and give it to the scale house, and they would drop that $20 into the receptacle. But that's not what they're doing today. It better not be what they're doing today.
So if I...
Joey, your point is well taken.
If I gave them the cash, they should say, no, you put it in there.
You put it in there.
But your point is well taken.
Yes, it is.
We have looked at different solutions. In fact, just a couple of meetings ago, we had some folks come up with a device where you, almost like a coin-operated machine, where you put your money in and then you put your garbage in, it empties it, and you don't, there's no attendant involved in taking the money at all. Unfortunately, there were limitations on that didn't make it a viable solution, but we are looking at different things. And the situation that Jim mentioned, we became aware of that just a few weeks ago, and that has been stopped. So if this has happened to you in the last 2 weeks, then there's a continuing problem. But we do have a problem there. We'll keep looking. Okay, any other comments? Dallas, Travis, are y'all okay with putting the $7,000 into the BOC budget for that software solution?
And reducing the police commissioner's salary by the half year or whatever it was.
Yes. Yes.
In anticipation.
Agreed.
Okay. Okay, we can't do do a motion on it, but I think that'd be all we need.
That's our notes.
Okay. Is there anything else? If not, would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. All right, we appreciate